everyone, it's Mike with Potomac Standard, and we're back again with another episode to help you do your part in bringing manufacturing back to America. Today is going to be the first episode in a new series where we break down treadmills, different components, compare different brands and manufacturers, and really get into the nitty-gritty. Then we'll get into how to repurpose different components for different use cases. Treadmills, when purchased correctly, you can get thousands of dollars worth of parts for pennies on the dollar. But at the same time, I'd probably avoid 80% of the treadmills out there. So you want to buy a treadmill with really, really great components, and that can be easier said than done. A lot of treadmill brands out there really cut corners, and it's interesting. For whatever reason, treadmills are able to rate based on peak horsepower, where pretty much every other motor manufacturer has to rate based on continuous horsepower, and there's a huge difference between the two. So it's important to go with a brand that you trust and that consistently uses high-end parts and doesn't cut corners. Landice is the one that really stuck out to me. For years, they went with Baldor as their motor manufacturer, who manufactures all their motors in the United States, and it's personally my favorite motor manufacturer. When I went to go purchase my treadmill, I really struggled to get the sellers to take photos of the motors ahead of time. On the Landice, you have to typically unscrew 4 to 6 screws to get the cover off to get photos. These folks had paid $5,000-$6,000 for these machines. They were giving them away or only charging a couple $100s for them, which in their mind was giving them away after remembering how much they had spent originally. Now, because they're so heavy, so difficult to move, they're willing to price them accordingly and have them as low as they were. They were also pretty difficult to work with. Most of these people did not want to help you at all in moving or picking up the device. They were older. They also did not want to go through the time and effort of unscrewing the cover to take you detailed photos. This machine that I actually purchased, they did not list it with any model number provided. I had to ask repeatedly just to get the model, and it was on the side of the machine. So to actually ask them to undo 6, maybe 8 screws, get inside of it, and actually take some really great photos, I don't think was ever going to happen. They were asking $200 for it. I got them down to $150, actually $170. And it was definitely a great purchase. I was actually hoping there was going to be a Baldor motor inside, but funny enough, there was a 4 horsepower motor instead. The Baldor was only coming in at 3, and I didn't even really realize that 110 volts motors would go all the way up to 4 horsepower. So I was blown away to see a 4 horsepower motor inside. 30 amps too. A lot of the cheaper treadmills will actually come in as low as 6 amps. So that's a great point of comparison. A lot of treadmills will be half a horsepower, maybe 1 horsepower, coming in at 6 to 12 amps, where this is 4 horsepower from a great brand, so it's a more honest 4 horsepower. And then 30 amps is just crazy. So I strongly recommend going with a great brand. Landice is awesome. Landice typically only makes higher end machines as well, so rather than it being a brand that has 90% low end machines and you've got to cross all those out, Landice is awesome and that 90% of their machines will do the job great. So if that seller isn't willing to provide you with detailed photos, odds are you're going to show up and be happy with what you find. Another great way to tell the quality of a treadmill is looking at the quality of the ball bearings. Most, if not all, treadmill manufacturers outsource the manufacturing of their ball bearings. So if they cut corners on their ball bearings, something so critical to the function of the machine, you have a great gauge that the rest of the machine's quality is going to be very consistently low quality. If, on the other hand, they go above and beyond, that's a great indication of the opposite, that the treadmill is going to be really high quality and consistently use parts that are high quality even when it's difficult to check. So Landice, for example, uses NTN ball bearings. The one that I found that this machine uses is the 6305 LR. And I have found they retail for between $40 and $60 a piece. So this machine came with about $200 worth of ball bearings that I'll get to repurpose and have in my part container. And it's a great indication that they didn't cut corners. They went with a really reputable Japanese manufacturer that charges a lot of money for their ball bearings. It would have been really easy to find a much, much cheaper Chinese manufactured alternative. So I was really, really happy to see, as I've taken this machine apart thus far, that any part that I'm able to identify made by another manufacturer, when I look it up, I'm only finding great things. I noted earlier that these machines are going to be much, much heavier than you were expecting. I would anticipate a machine of this caliber to be between 3 to 500 plus pounds. With that said, if you have a cool seller, they are very easy to take down. It would probably take around 30 minutes and only basic tools to completely disassemble a treadmill to the point where it could fit no problem at all in even a rather small SUV, as long as you can account for the board sticking out the back. Now, if you don't even care about some of the longer components and could potentially trash those, cut those in half, etc., you could really very quickly break a treadmill down that could absolutely fit into any car. So please follow the channel, subscribe, go check us out at potomacstandard.com, and we will be out shortly with additional videos with all sorts of guides on what treadmills to pick, what treadmills to avoid, and how to repurpose all their different parts.